Do you ever wonder what goes behind the scenes in a production of a track? Well, today I'm going to show you a little bit behind the curtain of our newest track until the end for Clocks and Clouds. Clocks and Clouds is a band for violin, cello, and drums, and we just released this new track. We have a music video. It's on all the streaming services, but I thought it'd be interesting to show you what we kind of went through when even deciding some of the decisions we made for the production of this track. I will say this was a tough track to kind of get to that final product, in particular the intro, and that's what we're going to focus on today. If you like this video, let me know in the comments and I will make more videos just like this and show you some of the behind the scenes. So we're going to focus on the introduction of this track. Again, our band is for violin, cello, and drums. And before we kind of even go any further, I probably should have a little philosophical conversation, because this is kind of one of the things that bands kind of have to decide when they're recording. Do they want to record it in a way that is the exact way they would play it live, or do they want to record it differently? You know, at the end of the day, it's really up to the band. For us, what we're really interested in, at least what I'm interested in when we're producing this, is I want to create the best listening experience possible. And so as a result of that, we really do add quite a bit more tracks than what we do live, which, for my opinion, is okay. If you disagree, that's also okay. But it's our music, so we get to do what we want. Anyways, we're going to jump into the introduction. Again, this was a hard thing to kind of get to this point where I was happy with. The introduction starts out really slow and somber. It's very ominous and dark and moody. It's very moody. And usually when you play it live, it's just me starting some chords. I'm playing an open fifth, D and an A, which is kind of alluding to D minor. The violin, when it comes in with the melody, definitely shows that we are in D minor. And I already knew that I wanted to do more than the two notes that we play live. And so I started recording some cellos, and I found these three cello parts seemed to be probably the closest. Let me play you those. I'm going to jump over to Pro Tools here. So I have a low, middle, and high. So here is three cellos. I won't play you the whole intro. I'll just play you a little bit. And again, that sounds good. It sounds fine. But honestly, after I kind of got these three tracks, I was like, it's just not polished enough, professional sounding enough. There's something about it that I wasn't super happy with. And so then I tried various permutations. I added more cello parts. I think at some point I had probably 8 to 10 cello parts, and it wasn't sounding better, which isn't the way you want to go in production. It was sounding worse. And so I thought, okay, what am I looking for? And I had to really have this vision in my head. And I knew I wanted this richness and this smoothness that kind of helped kind of carry it, something a little heavier maybe. And so I think what I was really after was something that's very more cinematic sounding. And so as a result of that, I decided maybe I'm looking for more of a string section, which in my opinion, you can't really create a string section sound with just singular cellos recorded over and over. At least I'm not skilled enough to do that. And so I kind of went another route, and I actually got a plugin. We have some pretty nice plugins for string sections for some of the licensing tracks that we do from East West. They're called Hollywood Strings. They're kind of standard. We have some other really nice string plugins as well, but these are kind of my go-to if I'm just like trying to figure something out. And if they're still not kind of hitting what I'm looking for, I shift to something else. But this kind of hit the mark for me. And so I added these string section plugins, and it sounds like this. It's okay. I'd say on its own, I'd probably have to finesse it if that's all it was going to be. I'd probably need to add a little bit more dynamics to it, and maybe even use some other string plugins in order to kind of make it sound a little real. But I knew where this was going to sit in the mix. I really wanted my real cello recorded part to kind of be out front. And so I put these recorded string sections really below it. And that was a big theme that we kind of discovered in this whole EP that's going to be released in January, by the way. We really added more layers than we used to, but it was all about subtlety in mixing. It was about making the main thing, but having that thing that's underneath it kind of maybe not be so present, but helping with the feel of the track. So let me add my cello parts, my actual cello parts with the plug-in strings, and it sounds like this. And you can tell there is something a little richer about that. Still, I wasn't like fully happy. I was happier, but not fully happy with the end result. And I thought I needed to add something else. I needed to get a little more creative. I needed to go outside of the box. Maybe it shouldn't all just be strings. So I kind of went to what I usually do. I started adding various instruments, and I like to start with piano. And I thought, well, maybe if I just put a piano, again, really low, very simple, but just kind of, it might help the attack. It might help you feel like, ugh, like that heartbeat type of feel. And I just really hit the piano on the chord changes. Let me solo the piano here. That sounds like this. Again, really simple, really dumb, but and on its own, it's pretty soft. You probably can't even hear it even just soloed as well. But you certainly aren't going to be able to hear it all that off much when I even put the plug-in strings and the cello in there. Again, it's about you feeling that maybe more of a stronger attack. My hope is that you kind of meld them together with the actual cello sound. So it sounds like this. Again, really subtle. It maybe helped 2%. I don't know. And that's okay. We probably got to about, 89, 88%. It's like a B plus. It's a B plus for me. And I was like, how do I get this to an A? And I started really thinking hard about what I could do. And I kind of went back in my head, and I remember watching some sort of Star Wars documentary. I'm not sure which one. I'm not sure where. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube or what. If you know, let me know in the comments. I remember hearing about the sound design, and whenever Darth Vader or they were in a Death Star, they kind of added this low rumble, and it created a very anxious, uneasy feeling for the listener. And I thought, that's really cool. Maybe we need to add a low rumble. And I thought, what is a low rumble I could add? And I usually try to go very organic as best as I can. I thought, you know what I could do? I could add a rolling orchestral bass drum, like very softly. Let me show you that. Again, it's about placement and making you feel that there's something that's making you a little uneasy. Maybe you don't know that it's a bass drum, but there is one. So here's that bass drum. Maybe it's making this video uneasy. I also added a timpani roll that was kind of rolling a concert D, which kind of helped added some aspect to the harmony. So here's the bass drum and the timpani roll. In fact, let me just do the timpani roll first, and then I'll add the bass drum in a second. So here's just the timpani roll. Here's with the bass drum. Again, subtlety in mixing. It really took a lot of time to find where that actually should live. And you use that not just with volume, but you can also find good placement using reverb and delays and EQ to kind of push something forward, and also panning as well. Let's put all of those kind of accompaniment parts in, and then we'll talk about the violin. All right, so now in the mix soloed, I have the real cellos, the string section sound, a very subtle piano, a rolling bass drum, and a rolling timpani, and we get this. Again, I was really happy about it. I felt like we kind of got there, especially when I really struggled for so many days, weeks on that intro. In fact, I remember there were times where I just said, I can't work on this anymore. I put it away. I couldn't come up with the solution. Now let's talk about the violin, because there's a violin part that's in there, because that would be a really boring song if it's just that. So violin is a tough instrument to record. I really feel strongly that it's important that the violin is bright, but not too bright. You don't want it to be brittle. You don't want it to be really peaky. You don't want it to hit your ears really funny. But at the same time, you also have to record it, being aware of how you want it to kind of come forward in the mix. And also you have to be aware of kind of what the song is asking. For this violin, especially for how aggressive it eventually gets the track, I recorded it a little brighter. I probably put the microphone closer to the instrument than, say, different tracks that are supposed to be more expansive. I wanted to be kind of right in your face. and I'm going to solo it, and you're going to probably think, wow, that's too bright of a violin. But you have to also understand that soloing is too bright, but then when you add it with everything else, which really rich and thick, you kind of need a little bit of a brightness to kind of push it forward. So here's that violin soloed. I'll stop it there. So again, it's a little bright, but kind of by design. Again, when you hear it with everything else, it's not too bright. And that is a big part of production. You have to have a really clear vision because you're going to make some decisions in your recording process that you might be happy with or not happy with after you mix it. And obviously you can try to fix things in the mix, but it's better to do it right in the front end. And obviously if you can understand a little bit of Pro Tools, you see I have a lot of different plugins on top of it. I have EQs, I have compressors, I have reverbs and delays and all the good tools that engineers use. So I'm going to play you the entire intro with everything unmuted. So it's going to have, again, those 3 cello parts, that string orchestra sound, a piano, and a rolling bass drum and a rolling timpani. All right, here we go. Introduction, the full introduction. All right. So again, hopefully you enjoyed this behind the scenes look at the introduction of our newest track, Until the End. Again, you can listen to it on Spotify. You can watch the music video on YouTube. If you liked this type of content, let us know in the comments below and I'll make you more content about other parts of this track. It gets really exciting and I have some real interesting production choices that we chose on this track. We have a new EP coming out in January. Again, if this content was interesting, another way you can really support us if you like and subscribe to our channel. I would love to show you more behind the scenes because it's interesting to me and I hope it's interesting to you. I hope you learned something about this track and I hope maybe if you're producing anything on your own, maybe you got some new ideas to add to your tool belt. So thanks so much for listening. Till next time.